of that consolidated and cleaned up. The second item he mentions is creating, or at least listing, the issue of environmental issues. He's saying that there is no office, bureau, division, agency, or department in the city charter that deals specifically with environmental issues. I know that Lee Elman and the planning department deals with some of these, but it doesn't appear in their descriptions. And so he's suggesting us to take a look at that, either possibly putting it in that department or creating another department. But he says, I'm aware that I've been ambiguous about the exact duties and functions of this new office, but that is because I'm not certain if the mayor is interested in creating a new office in the city. If this does interest him, this is an idea that could be expanded upon. Therefore, I'm recommending that these matters, along with the issues raised in the attached chart, which is the chart that I referenced, there's 6 or 7 issues, for review by the Charter Revision Commission and possible inclusion in a referendum. If you have any further questions regarding the matters discussed here, please contact me. While we are not driven by the mayor's wishes, it would be important, I think, to get clarity on the mayor's position.
You can start forming departments,
certainly we should be informed by the mayor's view and position on creating a new department within city government, as well as investigate these other issues. Some of them, again, are real simple
just language.
The terms councilor and council member use interchangeably. Should be more consistency here. That's one. Typo, roll call instead of
royal.
Oh, royal call instead of roll call.
That's just a typo in the print.
Chief Financial Officer, and that's the item that I referenced earlier. Bureau of Community Services. It's listed under the article dealing with executive offices. Within that section, it says that the Bureau of Community Services shall include Bureau of Youth Services and the Office of the Aging. However, on page, there's some inconsistency in language, so we have to look at that.
The inconsistencies, and these are going to, this is going to be a perennial problem, because what ends up happening, and I think I've briefed some members of the commission about this in the past, unfortunately, there is a long-standing pattern in Yonkers where when the budget is proposed and enacted, it's that process that, for whatever reason, is used to start to move offices around. And you end up with the charter not being consistent with the de facto organization of the city government. And then later on, the city government, it kind of catches up, and the cleanup amendments are not always entirely consistent, and then it changes again. And you start to get these problems with language and different organizations that the city government has had over time. Some of these I recognize. The Bureau, for example, of Youth Services and Aging, we dealt with a number of years ago. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but it was dealt with. And it's possible that when we dealt with it, we may not have picked up every single cross-reference. So that's possible that that's what this is, and that may have been an error on my part. And I want to go back and look at that. On the other hand, it may also be that some of these that appear to just be language changes, when you look into them more, sometimes are more than just language changes, and they are real structural changes. So I can go through and take a look at these and let you know if it was an error in drafting, if it is a real structural change, and brief you next time as to what, if anything, these mean. The one thing about the chief financial officer and all of that, that also goes back a long way, having to do in part with the way that the city made its transition when there was the weak mayor, when it was the city manager, to the strong mayor form of government. And there were problems, not the right word, there were different positions, and then later on certain positions were elevated to the department level, others were not, and this was an example of things getting shifted off, as was it within this or within that, and who was functioning as the CFO, and the reason that there was a CFO was because it was differentiated from the city manager, and you could start to go on and on and on with all of this stuff.
I'd like to see, we have 7 items that are on this chart. I'd like to deal with the first 6 separately, and then the last one separately. So what I'd like to suggest we have is, Steve, look at these 6 items and see if they are simply language issues, or do they have structural implications? If someone would like to make a motion.
A question?
Yes.
If they are strictly language, can we just flip them back to the city council to correct rather than put it on a referendum?
They may technically, Marty, and I'll have to look at this, they may technically affect the powers of an elected official. If they do, then it would have to be, if proposed by the city council, go to referendum. If not, the answer is yes, the city council can do it. So that's the quick answer to your question, and I will look at that as part of the structure.
It seems like a terrible question to ask on election day.
Well, I mean, actually, we'll have to think through the marking of it, because, I mean, the one that we're going to get from the mayor also has some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to think what the language is, and it might be, do you guys authorize us to make the changes to make the language consistent with the original intent?
Right. Yeah, when it comes to the ballot question, for those kinds of issues. Sorry?
You're the best.
Yeah, and when it comes to those, we've generally been able to phrase ballot questions that accomplish 2 goals for these things. One, communicate what's being done. In other words, we're not going to be deceiving anybody. And also indicate that we're not making substantive changes, that these are cleanup and a consistency and cleanup language so that people understand that that's the purpose we're making these changes. If in fact that's what's being done. So if it is morning, yeah, we can do it in a way that would communicate that we're doing that and that there's nothing substantive or that's changing the structure of something.
So, who moves the motion to have Steve review the first 6 items and determine if there's any subsequent issues there, or if they're just simply language? Bob, second. Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The last issue is a little different to me, in that it's this environmental department issue. And so I'd actually would like to know how you guys see this, feel this. I mean,
I think that Mr. Blanchard has to go back to the mayor to discuss it further, because we can't determine departments.
That's part of his request, is that he doesn't know what the mayor's thoughts are. And I would request that he sees the mayor and find out if it has merit, bring it back, yes or no.
And we actually can determine departments, is my understanding. But I'm suggesting that we don't determine the department without being informed by the mayor. You shouldn't tell us what to do.
I mean, that's all we got to do, is set up another department with a budget and employees.
Right.
Yeah, just an issue.
Right. So I mean, so we should hear from the mayor on the issue.
I would make it to a Blanchard and the mayor.
So you're saying, we're not going to take the issue up, he needs to take the issue up with the mayor, and then see if the mayor wants to propose anything.
And then have Blanchard get back to us.
I would.
I just want to, in terms of a process question, we can take up any issue whether the mayor wants us to or not.
Correct.
And so, I mean, once an issue has come to us, it's now in our consciousness, and we need to decide if we want to do something with it or not.
And I want to throw it back to Blanchard
Okay. So your thing is that we don't want to do anything
until
until,
we get clearer signal that a new department can be formed.
can be formed is not the issue. We can form a new department.
Yeah, but with the mayor's blessing.
There's an underlying substantive issue that I think will help